The other side is just remove barriers to doing great work. Have a look at your processes, have a look at your policies. Make sure that everything that you do is designed around your people and your vision for your company, not just what everyone else is doing or what's popular right now, or, what's the company that makes 100 times our revenue doing in this space? Like, you're not competing with them. You should be designing things around yourself. A great workplace is built by and is dependent on your people.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Modern Membership Org podcast. My name's Riley here with Bursting Silver, and I am joined by a special internal guest, one that probably hasn't gone around the circles of the iMIS circuit because he is our in-house people and culture. We've got Will on the stream here to tell us a little bit about what makes us a great place to work, and not just to tip our own cap, but to really talk about the company values that Bursting Silver, it kind of stands by to set us, apart from the bunch, and what that has also done to improve our workspace here. So without further ado, Will, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Riley. Happy to be here.
Well, happy to have you on as well. I think that it goes without saying that you have definitely brought a special flavor to an already foundational, core, valuable piece about our people and culture. And really excited to get it straight from the man himself today, instead of me just going around and saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it's only one of us, people tend to think that we're lying or we're making this stuff up. But now there's two, and we can spread the message.
Yeah, exactly. So for those that haven't met you or heard about you, maybe give us just an overview of what got you into people and culture on our team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the senior manager of people and culture at Bursting Silver. I'm originally from Ireland. I made the move to Canada in August 2020. My background in HR sort of began when I studied human resource management in university. I've always had a big interest in people and what makes people tick and what drives people. So it felt like a natural sort of decision when I was deciding what to study. I spent the last 14 years sort of as a true people, talent, culture generalist, spanning many industries. So hospitality, engineering, financial services, and technology consulting as well. So that's based mostly in Europe, North America, and beyond. There's no single element of HR or people management that I haven't been involved in to date. And one of the biggest things for me is I've always seen my purpose as people, HR operations, talent, whatever name your company might have this role labeled as. I exist to remove barriers and guide growth and development so that people can do the roles that they come to work to do. No one should have to come to work and worry about, the amount of admin or busy work that they need to do just to stay afloat or to get noticed. So that's where I see myself. I joined Bursting Silver in June of 2023, and I was instantly blown away by the culture and the connection that was already built. I've overseen a lot of growth and change within the organization, and I'm really, really proud that even with changes and with the length of time that I've been here, that our culture remains strong and as central as ever before. Our people, our clients, our leadership structure, our working environment, and our values, all of these are the components that really make Bursting Silver what it is, which is a great place to work. My responsibility to serve our company and our people is not to own culture and tell everyone what it should be or what a book says it is. It's to observe what is currently happening and what our culture, what culture our team has built over the last 15 years. I need to protect what works for our people and enable growth with strategies designed around the feedback that I regularly solicit, including our participation with the Great Place to Work certification process.
Yeah, I'm happy you highlighted that. So when we're talking about Great Place to Work, I think most people would think that we're just kind of tooting our own horn, but there is an association that's dedicated to benchmarking what it means to be a great place to work. So maybe you could set the table there for those listening, what the organization is all about.
Absolutely. So Great Place to Work is an organization that sort of serves as a certification and a recognition platform, a badge of honor, essentially, for companies that stand out through their culture, their environment, through the trust that their structure and that their people environment has built over time. it's sort of seen as one of the global standards for workplaces that are unique or that do something that sets themselves apart. To the extent that Great Place to Work certified companies are sought after more than your standard company, because people know what they're getting into. There's criteria that are defined at the Great Place to Work level that companies who want to get certified or want to engage in the process with, they have to meet that criteria. They have to meet that benchmark to be able to sort of show off that badge of honor. Bursting Silver started working with Great Place to Work in 2023, just before I joined. Got our first certification in March of 2023. We're now on our 4th year of being a certified Great Place to Work company. And we've also been included in Great Place to Work's best workplaces in Canada list 2 times over now, 2 consecutive years. That's the top 100 companies in Canada. That list is recognizing. So that's a very significant achievement. But it reflects our culture and our people. It's a snapshot, essentially, when you go through the process of how our people feel in the moment that they're providing that feedback. It's not, and it should never be looked at as the end goal. You can't just earn the badge and then say, that's it, I'm never going to do anything again to further my culture or build on this or move from it. It also provides us with a wealth of knowledge on the things that people maybe don't find as strong pull for what makes us a great place to work. So it's very, very valuable information, very, very significant achievement to get it, but it does reflect what you've already built. It's not a be all and end all.
Yeah, and I know, like, through the process, it's very much a team effort. It's not just spoken for from the top or paying into some certificate pool. So maybe you could walk through what the process looks like to get that certification and explain what all is involved, or is it just something that anybody can jump into?
Yeah, well, I mean, if it was, I'm sure that we would still have it, because I'd be able to talk all day long about things that would make us a great place to work. But the certification process is actually quite rigorous, and you can't just fall into it or pay Great Place to Work and get a licensing and get the badge. It's a reflection of how things truly are, and that's from feedback taken from your employees. The sort of certification process is in 2 parts. The first part being completion of a trust index survey by all of your active employees in your given country. For us, that's Canada. The survey itself assesses your company and how people feel about your company through 5 different dimensions. So those being credibility, how much people trust your leadership and your business and you say. Respect, how people feel when they come to work, and do they feel like they're accepted and that they're listened to and that they are part of your company. Fairness, that people feel like your decisions and that your process reflects an equal opportunity for everybody. Pride, of course, it's people want to work here. They want to work at companies that are value driven, that work in meaningful spaces. And camaraderie, how much engagement, how much a team feel is there to working at your company. So the survey itself is many questions within each of those dimensions, but you get an overall score essentially at the end. We've been very, very lucky at Bursting Silver that the people who have built our culture and build our environment, the people who work here, they rate our environment incredibly high. And I'll get into some of that, what makes us a great place to work in a few minutes. The other side of the certification process is a culture brief, and this is where I have involvement. The culture brief is a profile that you detail many areas of information about your company. What it is essentially that you believe makes your company special, what it is that you would say that your company does differently, and the things that define your company, but also takes into account your demographics, your size, even your revenue. It takes all these into account so that it can associate your scores with these criteria, and essentially that's how you end up placing either with the certification or with the top 100 best workplace lists each year. one of the reasons I like Great Place to Work as a metric and one that I can stand over and stand behind is the integrity of the process and of the sort of engagement as a whole. It's very difficult these days to tell an employee or anybody really that if something's anonymous, that it truly is anonymous. I can hand over heart say that when I submit the list of our employees' emails, and you must submit every single one, you can't leave out, if you think there's somebody there who is not going to give you a great score, they still have to be included. They vet this as well basis. One of the biggest things for me is I have no control over what's answered. So the results that I get at the end based on the Trust Index survey, they're real and they're a true reflection. And I stand over the anonymization because I've no input on what gets said, but I also can't figure out who says what. Right? The majority of the survey is quantitative, and unless you have a large enough sample size that you can, break that down or filter, I think it's over 6 people, your same exact demographic. It's impossible to identify who has answered what. And that level of anonymity, for organizations who might not be at the top level of the great Place to Work survey scoring, it's really important. That's how you get the true feedback. And I'm a big believer in that. I don't care who said what, I care that it was said. And that's a big part of our Great Place to Work survey each year. So that's the reason I can stand over it. It's one of the most integrous solutions I know out there to really acknowledge your success and your culture.
Having been a part of many of those surveys, I can speak to it too, where it's one of those deliberate reach out from the team to make sure that we're all participating, because it does mean a lot, and it means a lot to get heard. I think is something that's often overlooked. To that note as well, when it comes to anonymous feedback not being so anonymous, I think that any feedback that I've given has been addressed at an all hands, but not directly to me, or not like a, hey Riley, I know you sent that. It's usually one that's taken into consideration and usually valued. So it's nice to see that. And especially in terms of how we earn that recognition, it's a group effort. That's something too that I know James Harrison and I, when it comes to talking to new clients, we tote the Great Place to Work recognition because it's something that's built off of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really is.
So when we're considering that on how we earn it and what makes up the Great Place to Work process, what makes then your people and strategy at Bursting Silver so strong in meeting the criteria for Great Place to Work, or even reflecting what's currently been built at Bursting Silver?
Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever and ever and ever. It's one of the things that makes my job so easy. Honestly, when it comes to things like recruitment, it's an easy conversation the majority of the time. It's always nice to be in a position where I can tell people all about this company that they may not have heard of before, and have people leave sort of interviews going, that's absolutely something I want to be part of. And it's, that shouldn't be overlooked at how unique that is in every workplace, in every environment. If you can say that, it's a pretty good starting place. But the company, this is not something that we've fallen into accidentally. It's a very intentional enablement, I think, to allow a culture to grow and flourish. And starts with every decision, every process. It's the basis of everything that follows. Last year, one of the big things that I worked on was updating our values. It was a very intentional change. Our values, our company values, our company ethos, they did reflect our company, of course. But what we were finding is there was so much more that wasn't captured. And we considered the qualities that our people possess and what makes Bursting Silver successful as a company. And we wanted our values, our core values, to really reflect the true Bursting Silver, not just lip service or something we display on an onboarding slide and whenever mentions again. And if you ask people 6 months down the line, you ask many HR people to name their company values, they struggle. I know all of ours because all I have to do is think about our company and the people that are here. We are people first. We are client centric. Integrity always. It's the way we work. We evolve with intention. We don't just change things for the sake of it. We evolve to make sure things continue to grow. And we're driven by purpose. We exist in a very niche area, a very niche corner of the market. And that is that purpose, that meaningful work that really drives what makes Bursting Silver so successful.
And I know that like we work in the nonprofit space. Even when I was talking with Doug Morris at ASI, a lot of things that he called back to why he does what he does is because he loves working with people that want to make a difference. I think that also runs true with our organization and the fact that we have more people reaching out to apply because they appreciate
Yeah,
our values. It's just our opportunity to be able to suss out the individuals that really are looking to reflect that value too.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we've seen with our partnership and with our engagement with Great Place to Work, we have seen our applications grow year over year. Every time I post a role now, I think the last figure, the last check I have is in the last 3 years, we've increased the number of applicants for every role we post by 300%. So, that it's no small feat. The badge, as I say, the badge is not your end goal, but it definitely does give a lot of credibility to what you're building, what you have built. People want to be a part of that. And you sort of switch from this mindset of tell everyone about Bursting Silver, because this might be your one opportunity to sell, what a great company that it is, into more of a here's what we offer. Now let's talk about where you would fit into that. And that's a really nice place to be when you're recruiting. But I also think it sets the right standard for you as a candidate. If you want to become part of this, everything is up front. You see the whole picture before you join. There's no surprises, and it's a really nice place to be. As a somebody in my position anyway, that's makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're thinking about the benefits or the company culture that we're essentially living and breathing, I know one thing that the team highly respects is work-life balance and ensuring that people in a remote work scenario too are appreciating a separation between your work and your life. So I would like your opinion maybe on how do you think Bursting Silver has approached that in terms of that balance and is that sustainable?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the company culture. Like it's acknowledged and recognized that all of our people here, they work here and they have their own lives outside sort of the roles that they hold at Bursting Silver. We celebrate that in many ways, and we encourage people to bring their authentic selves to work. Um, Even through sort of our recruitment and onboarding process, we feel really strongly that, your experience and your skills, that's one element to consider, of course, but you're in a pool with so many other people who maybe possess exactly the same as you, same education, same experience level. What really sets you apart is the person that you are, your interests, your values, your hobbies. That's what tells me more about you as a person, and really that's where we make our decisions. I made a commitment when I started working at First and Silver that when people apply for roles here, I'm going to manually screen every resume that comes into us. As I said, and I've already covered the fact that we've grown our applications since I sort of said that, but it still holds true. I still do that. I feel like we would miss out on too much of, what makes people great if we rely too heavily on automation in that space. And that really is that people first. It's not just a value. It's not just something we write down. It's the common thread, the common theme that runs through absolutely everything here. In terms of sustainability, like, is it a fad? Is it just because I'm in my position? No, absolutely not. It was here before me as a mindset. It will be here long after if I'm ever not here. All of our leadership decisions are made with people in mind. Our leadership team communicate regularly through our all hands meetings that run sort of every month or every 6 weeks, through all of their internal updates. And one of the things that I really respect, I haven't always seen in my career is our leaders stand over the decisions that they make. They communicate them. They don't ask somebody else to do it on their behalf. And they take all kinds of feedback openly and with an open mind. All too often you kind of get these instances where if someone comes up with an idea, they're very defensive of it. And that's not the case here. And I'm grateful to work in that environment and to be sort of one of those, the go-between sometimes with a lot of this, and generally the one who will hear a lot of the feedback firsthand. But it's always nice to know that it's not going to just finish with me. It goes back to people who can really move the needle, and that's a really nice environment to be in. But one of the things that I was incredibly shocked by when I started working here was that our leadership team have a deep knowledge of all of our people at all levels. It's usually my position when I go into performance reviews or that kind of thing, that I'm the one presenting information, and here's employee 267 or whatever it might be. That's not the case here. Our whole leadership team, they know pretty much about everyone. They know how people are doing. They know what development opportunities people are interested in. They know what they're working on. It's not something I've ever experienced before, and I think it just goes all the way back to the respect that the company has for people, and it starts at the top, but it definitely bleeds down through everybody.
Yeah. And so that calls into the point about being so remote as well and so disconnected. We're spread out all over the place. Europe, Bulgaria now, from an organization perspective, when it comes to people and culture, where's the line between the benefit of being remote first and being able to be remote versus the risks to the
Yeah,
culture, just being
yeah.
isolated that way?
I think it's something that, having never experienced a culture as deep as ours, an engagement and a supportive environment, it's something that I hadn't actually considered ahead of time. I saw it as just being a benefit. Get to work from home. Who wants to sit in traffic for an hour each way to their office? We've been remote, as I say, since for the last 15 years. It's always been our culture. There's a few elements to that make it a benefit. The risks are there, of course. There's a risk that when you hire someone remotely, you never really get the full picture. And are they as engaged as they are in the interview process once they start, and once that sort of scrutiny is gone? There's a few elements there that we have in place to protect that. Where our hiring is very deliberate. We enable things. I always say that it's not fully remote. It's remote first. Even if we have things in person where there's a group or 3 or 4 people meet in one of our main hubs across Canada, we'll always have the virtual setup as the primary concern. And then, everybody, yeah, if you're in the same room, obviously we won't all have a laptop with that kind of thing. But the remote first element is the important bit. We enable people to work from wherever they might be. There's benefits to that, as I say, but the risks, of course, need to be considered. I haven't seen it at Bursting Silver because as I say, we have our own ways of managing that. The technology stack that we have here, where we have virtual office called Gather. We use that as our primary source of communication at the company. We have obviously with Slack. Everyone has Slack or a version of Slack. Not everyone has as strong a culture as we have, and it's a little 8-bit virtual workplace. Everyone has their own desk, they can customize it themselves, customize their avatar. But you walk around it. You go to meeting rooms. You go to somebody's office if you want to talk to them. It's no different than the majority of the world in 2019. It doesn't feel that way anyway, and it allows for really quick interactions. It allows for you don't need to go to your calendar and add a 30-minute meeting if you have one question. You just wave to the person, send them a little notification. They're either available or they're not, but they'll get to you. And so many little hallway conversations, so many virtual events that we run. They're run in Gather because it's just like being in an office, except you're not. We have video capabilities, we have text capabilities. It's an almost perfect sort of solution for feeling engaged. You sit in pods of your own team and you have focused work and team sessions, and that's great. It really is. Obviously, virtual social events, they run throughout the year. We make sure that even when we have an in-person social event at one of our main sort of hubs where the majority of our people are based, and we'll always have a corresponding virtual event follow that or before that, a few weeks out. It allows for everybody to get together through the year, but again, then people are still a box on a screen for the whole year, and that can run into many years depending on how long people exist in cultures like that. The one thing that I believe makes our culture stand out is our in-person retreat, our annual company retreat every year. It's it's legendary. There's many stories, and they're all good. And that's what struck me really when I first heard that we were doing it. I got the HR panic of like, oh my God, it's going to be waivers. There's going to be like the news. This is going to be awful.
Herding
I don't want to
cats.
be involved in this.
Maybe the
But
flights aren't going to work.
yeah, exactly. Someone's going to miss their flight, and it doesn't. People are so engaged in our retreat, and our annual retreats are an opportunity for professional development. We run a give back initiative every single year as well on our retreats, where we give back to the communities that we travel to. But the most important bit, the bit that stands out the most, is it's in person that we get to spend with each other. The big thing, the unique thing for me that people who go on their first retreat always point out is, I felt like I knew you already. You know, if I haven't met them in person and it's just been gather or whatever, they feel like they know me, or they know their teammates, or they know people across the company because of how we use our technologies to enable us to feel close together. It's a unique benefit, as I say. Not every company has the luxury anymore, and that's, each company needs to decide obviously what works best for them. I know that this wasn't a change that happened 6 years ago. This has been the way that we've always worked, and it's something that we build a lot of things around and based around. So it definitely works for us.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing with the retreats outside of the give back initiatives, yes, making bikes for the Boys and Girls Club in Nashville or building houses in the Dominican Republic, those are all very feel good, but getting to see the team and the amount of, I thought you were taller, or you're taller than I
Yeah,
expected. Those are always fun.
absolutely. Yeah.
And
You
yeah,
mentioned
the
it.
call back to the gather rooms as well. I remember when we first put that in, people were going through costumes. There was like a little room that you can do a race car thing on. It's kind
Yeah.
of like, for those listening that know Habbo Hotel, or that have ever
Well,
been
kind
on
of.
one of those like 8-bit. There was a Coca-Cola game back in the day where it's just 8-bit top down run around.
Yeah. Someone actually asked me in a cafe once, was I playing Pokemon on my laptop? And I thought that was just so funny, because it's it's like, at a quick glance you might think so, but also it's work. And it's kind of nice that it feels that way.
Yeah, I've got that from my better half as well, looking over my shoulder. Well, so I mean, all of this definitely sounds amazing outside looking in, but I'm curious. You were saying like working with the partners, they know everybody coming in. You already had a good foundation of team values that you're able to just kind of amplify. Is there anything that still you would consider hard from a people and culture perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is as I said at the beginning, that it's not my job to enforce culture, but it's also not a one and done, complete the checklist activity. This is every decision. This is every new hire. It's it's everything. It's intentional. If you don't build your strategies, your decisions, your changes around your culture and the people who have built that culture, you don't actually have anything. You can go and get your certification, but as I say, that's a point in time review. How people are feeling when they answer the survey. And while it comes with many benefits, if you rely on that as your only metric, and as your sort of your indicator of completion, it's not going to last. It's a forever thing. Our structure and the strategies that we put in place, and the people that are here and the way that we hire, and all of that good stuff, the benefits, the meaningful work that we do, they're the things that allow us to not be not feel overwhelmed by it. Our culture has naturally developed over the years. It's driven by the people that work here. It's a little bit guided by me and the partners and the leadership team here, but it takes everyone to be engaged and pulling together to build and maintain that distinct culture. One of the things that always strikes me is when I talk about Great Place to Work, or I talk about the things that we do at Bursting Silver, people are always like, I thought I had a good job, or I wish I worked there. Compared to you guys, this is just different. And it's one of those things that I think if you ever take your eye off it for too long, or you stop caring, or you stop building around it, or get complacent, it goes away so fast. And it's very difficult to build back up. I know from previous experiences that trying to convince people that if you just invest in this thing, it's worth it in the long run. It's an investment now, time. It doesn't even always have to be money. It can go away. And really what I'm here for is to make sure that, the busyness and the external factors of everything that we do, that they can definitely distract from our culture. They can kind of make people not want to engage in a lot of things, especially if you don't keep your eye on how busy people are. My job is just to keep things sort of on track, keep giving those opportunities, keep enabling that, like those little bits of additions to the culture here and there. That's the bit that really isn't. It's hard because it's an ever present, and it doesn't go away, but it also pays out 10 times over to have a great culture. When things don't go right, if you have a great culture, people are a little bit more forgiving, and you tend to get another shot at things. Whereas people are already annoyed at where they work and their environment, their level of forgiveness is probably a lot lower. So I'm definitely grateful for it. It is hard work. It's one of my favorite things about my job, but it's probably one of the toughest things too.
Yeah, well said. I think having that ever present connection to it, though, that's the payoff. If it was all easy, it wouldn't be worth it, I think.
Absolutely.
Now looking at the time, just considering it, this is it's been an excellent conversation, especially from my perspective. Rah rah rah, go team! But I think I'd like to be able to take this opportunity to maybe give you a chance for a takeaway to other organizations that might be struggling from a remote sense, or looking for easier ways to start to improve their own values and their own people and culture environments, turning it into a good takeaway from a leadership perspective. So what is one piece of advice you would give to other people, teams, and leadership to start to build this foundation?
Look, I'm very aware that we're very privileged at Bursting Silver to be in a position where, we can offer perks and benefits on a retreat. But the truth is, it doesn't take a long list of fancy benefits to build it. My advice is, invest in the knowledge of your people. Spend time getting to know what drives their ambitions and their reason for doing the work that they do. The other side is just remove barriers to doing great work. Have a look at your processes, have a look at your policies. Make sure that everything that you do is designed around your people and your vision for your company, not just what everyone else is doing or what's popular right now, or, what's the company that makes 100 times our revenue doing in this space. Like, you're not competing with them. You should be designing things around yourself. A great workplace is built by and is dependent on your people. Remember that it's not all on your shoulders. Without people, most of our businesses cease to exist, or we become sort of robotic shells, and that's not the business that I'm in. But use that knowledge as your sort of your guiding principle. Hire intentionally, enable engagement where you can, and most of all, don't see culture as sort of a task to check off. Embrace it as your greatest asset, because for sure, Bursting Silver it is.
Awesome. Well said. Well, Will, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing some highlights and some insights about how we're structured and what it means to be a great place to work.
Absolutely, Riley. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Anytime. Take care, Will.
See you in a bit.
All right, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks to Will for jumping on this episode. I obviously can talk about things that we're doing and how awesome it is here, but I think it actually means more coming from Will, because he can give some perspective on what really goes into making all this work. So that was awesome to have him on board. And if you're looking for more information on a great place to work or anything else, those show notes are in the comments. If you haven't yet already, please consider subscribing. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all of the platforms. And this has been the Modern Membership Org podcast. My name is Riley from Bursting Silver, and we'll see you on the next episode next week. Take care.